All right, guys, what's going on? Welcome in. So in this one, I wanted to ask the question, do you think the Jets offensive line could be a top 10 unit in the NFL, right? When I'm thinking about top 10, top 5, top 10 offensive lines, when I'm thinking about the top 5 to 10 offensive lines in football, I think about the Philadelphia Eagles, the Tampa Bay Bucks, the Denver Broncos, Detroit Lions, Buffalo Bills. I personally, I think the Atlanta Falcons offensive line it's an underrated group. I don't think that a lot of people talk about the Falcons offensive line as one of like the best in football, but I think it's pretty close. You know, when you watch Atlanta play, they don't really have a lot of issues up front. They don't really have a lot of issues, in pass protection and whatnot. I think the Falcons offensive line is pretty damn underrated. Baltimore is a team with a good offensive line, but they did lose Patrick McCarry in free agency to the Jacksonville Jaguars. So I'm interested to see how Baltimore's O-line shakes out. But those are kind of the top group in my opinion. And when I'm thinking about this Jets offensive line, right, it's young, it's hungry, it's talented, it's athletic. Let's break down the top 5. So let's go left to right here, starting with Olu. So Fashion is going into year 2. I felt like he showed a lot of promise year 1. To be fair, it was a little rocky early on, right? And that was, of course, the Jets were messing around with his position, right? Left side, right side. I think he played right guard in a game. Actually, I think that was against the Arizona Cardinals. They lined him up. They lined him up at right guard. It was a little rocky early on, right? But once the Jets just said, "You are the left tackle," his play not only just improved, but it steadied out. Right? It was consistent play from week 10 to 16, rock solid in pass protection, and on the year only allowed 1 sack and 4 quarterback hits. For a 21-year-old rookie. And keep in mind, Aaron Rodgers was the team's quarterback, and he couldn't really move around that well. In other words, if the football is not coming out pretty quickly, it's not like he's going to be escaping around, Kyler Murray, Josh Allen, Lamar Jackson type of escapability, right? Now, you can definitely argue running quarterbacks are, for some offensive linemen, harder to protect because they don't necessarily know where the quarterback is. When you have like a traditional drop back passer, the tackles know, what's happening behind them, where the quarterback is he climbing the pocket, things like that. But if you have a runner, is he bailing right? Is he bailing left? Is he stepping up? Is he trying to, going up against like 4 down linemen? You're pretty much always going to, assuming there's no blitzers, you're always going to have 2 lanes to run if you're a mobile quarterback. Right, just by, just bodies, right, counting players on the field. So you can definitely make that argument, but, with Rodgers, just the escapability was just not all that great, right? And it's whatever, no fault to him, post Achilles, his age, it is what it is. But with that said, Olu did a great job in pass protection last year. I feel fantastic about the left tackle position. Now you're factoring in, okay, new coaching staff. We all know, the old regime's kind of reputation, not only just within their own locker room, but around the league, right? Former Titans players talking about Keith Carter. It was just a flat out mess. Hackett, the offensive coordinator, Todd Downing, a mess, complete mess. I'm hoping, right? This is a straight assumption. I'm hoping the offensive line coaching is better. Steve Hyden, coming over from the Detroit Lions, primarily worked with tight ends. If we can, because we have a bunch of young offensive linemen here, a bunch of them. If all of a sudden the coaching goes from here to here and all of these guys start maybe improving at a quicker rate, this offensive line could be freaking nasty. But Olu, again, rock solid in pass protection when playing left tackle. Again, moving around the offensive line, I don't like the idea. I never have. And it was so weird, too, with the Jets, regime with this, like, rule, right? Like, why is it that the young offensive linemen are forced into playing a bunch of different positions, right? Joe Tippmann has to play center and guard in training camp. They're moving him around. Who else? Mekhi Becton, left side, right side. Olu Fashanu, left side, right side, little bit of guard. Carter Warren and Max Mitchell, both left side and right side. But then for the veterans, there it's just no movement, right? Morgan Moses, no, he's the right tackle. Tyron Smith, no, he's the left tackle. So I don't know. I always felt like it was a bit weird. AVT's another guy that was forced to move around. I'm just happy we're I'm assuming here that, no one came out and confirmed this, but just get back to basics. right? Offensive line 101. If Olufashinu is the team's best left tackle, let's just keep him at left tackle despite injuries that happen elsewhere. It's the general manager's job, in my opinion, to fix those issues. If there's an injury at guard, if there's an injury with right tackle, if you really want to swing tackle, go out and find one as opposed to, trying to mess around too much. I do think, it's important to have a backup swing tackle, right? To maybe get someone experienced in training camp, but like one tackle doing that, not the entire, group. And then I also think it's important to have one flexible interior offensive lineman. But again, I just don't like the idea of taking young players and saying, okay, no, you excel in this area, or you excelled in this area back at college. We're going to take you and move you to a different spot. Some guys can do it. Some guys can't. But anyway, Olu, I feel great about. There are some questions about run blocking, being objective. But, is anyone saying Olufashinu is the best left tackle in football or is the top 3 left tackle in football? No, he's still a young player at 22 years old. Can he get better in that department as he grows and gets stronger? Sure. But if he doesn't, he's still going to be a really solid left tackle. Moving on down the list here, left guard. Actually, you know what? Let's just talk about both guards for a second, right? I personally, this is not me trying to be a homer. I cannot name 15 better guards in football than John Simpson and AVT. I can name a couple. I could definitely name a couple, but I can't name 15 more. What's the significance with 15? If you're above 15, you're an above average guard in football, and the Jets have 2 of them. John Simpson, entering the last year of his deal, super impressive stuff last year. I mean, not only was the play on the field great in pass pro and run blocking, but also as a leader in the locker room. It really seemed like guys kind of gravitated towards John Simpson. Of course, coming over from Baltimore, a winning organization with a winning pedigree, I think that really played a part in it. But man, John Simpson, such an not by Jets fans, but from like a national scale, such an underrated offensive lineman in football. I mean, this dude did a great job last year. And I also feel really good about him being that kind of, just that anchor at guard, with Olu on the outside with his athleticism to kind of kick out. So I love that pairing on the left side. And he's only 28 years old, right? So he's in the prime of his career. It'll be interesting to see if he's brought back, just across the board. He just checks so many different boxes. He's powerful. He has good size, 6'4", 330. Multiple schemes, worked with multiple teams, Raiders, Ravens, Jets. I love John Simpson, right? But AVT, if you look at him, again, an above average guard. I would say AVT is a top 10 guard in football. Definitely top 10 right guard in football. But they're both free agents. Do the Jets want to give both of these guys a huge deal? I don't know. Right, we have to wait and see until, or how the season plays out and whatnot. But just assuming they're both healthy, I feel fantastic about both guard positions, right? AVT, we all know his versatility. We all know, the amount of responsibility that the Jets put on his plate. Never complained, never was an issue, had some injuries, but I think just sticking him at right guard, which is his best position on the offensive line. I mean, the dude could play 4 different spots on the O-line, and right guard seems to be his best overall position. So again, let's just stick him at right guard and watch him work. Last season, he did allow 4 sacks and 4 quarterback hits, but he was healthy, right? I love that about Vera Tucker this past season. Again, he's had some injury question marks in the past, triceps, Achilles, right? And last season, he was coming off the Achilles. So this season where he's coming into training camp off of a healthy year, man, with the better coaching, who knows how good this guy can be. So AVT, I am freaking ecstatic about. Let's look at center. Joe Tippmann. Going into year 3, if we look back at last season, going into year 2, I think Jets fans were maybe hoping for a little bit more consistent play. There were some great moments. There were some great games. And then there were some really rocky moments. One of the unfortunate storylines of training camp was like the weird snaps, the high snaps, and just everything that was kind of happening with Aaron Rodgers. It just kind of felt like it was there was some sort of snap location issue. And Tippmann is kind of the opposite of Olu, right? Where run game, he really excels. He's literally one of the best run blocking centers in football, but there are some pretty big question marks with pass protection being his main weakness. He allowed 5 sacks and 3 quarterback hits. And despite the up and down play, it was still an improvement from year 1 to year 2. right? Again, it wasn't perfect. No one is saying Joe Tippmann is a top 3, top 5 center in football. There are legit questions. But again, going from year 1 to year 2, we saw improved play. Could we see another jump? Could we see another jump from year 2 to year 3, specifically in pass protection? I think run blocking, if we get the same exact sort of run production from Joe Tippmann next year, I think we'll be, as Jets fans, we're like, okay, this is fantastic. This is great. But pass protection was the issue. Can we clean up that area? That's my only, big question mark with Tippmann. It also kind of felt like against the better defensive lines in football, there were maybe more mishaps and mistakes, and against the weaker defensive lines in football, it was more so cleaner games, which is, just common sense, really. Better competition. Chances are the matchup's going to be more difficult, harder. But yeah, hopefully just another year under his belt and he could get a little bit better. And then last but not least, Armand Membou, first round pick, 7th overall, 6'3", 314, quick feet, athletic profile, ability to shadow, right? I love his ability to shadow defensive ends coming his way. He kind of is built like a guard. There were some question marks pre-draft, like, okay, maybe he's a guard, not a tackle. But I think because of A, the athleticism, and B, the arm length, he projects to the next level really, really well as a future right tackle. But I love Membou's ceiling, right? 21 years old. He has 3 years of experience at Missouri, got better every single year, played in 35 games, allowed 3 sacks in the SEC, and he got better every single year. Like every year that he was out there, he took a big jump. From year 1 to 2, 2 to 3, he improved. The pass protection was always there. The run blocking with Membou has always been maybe the bigger concern. Not like it's horrible or anything, but again, trying to project to the NFL, you're going up against bigger, stronger defensive ends and whatnot. How is the run game blocking going to translate over? I think he's going to do a pretty solid job, but it wouldn't surprise me if the pass protection is maybe further along compared to the run blocking. I will say this, early on in Membou's career at Missouri, the run blocking was an issue. And then in year 2, still not great, but better. And then in year 3, really rounded out his game. So, I mean, man, geez, you're talking about an offensive line that is young, it's hungry. We've seen some pretty we've seen flashes of greatness from some of these guys. Everyone I feel like is trending upwards. No one is trending downwards, right? No one's going to be 36 here or anything, like on the last leg of his career, or we're relying on someone who's bounced around team to team to team, and it's like, okay, great, hopefully this isn't going to be a liability or a hole on the O-line. I mean, the cap is continuing to go up here. There's a chance that these offensive linemen could be on the Jets for a long, long, long time, and it actually feels crazy to say, but I think there's real potential that the New York Jets next season could have a legitimate top 10 offensive line, legitimate top 10 O-line. That's not me trying to be a homer or anything like that, trying to, hype it up or anything before. No, like based purely off talent, athleticism, the coaching staff brought in, where this team is trending. If the Jets finish out, right, we grade out as the 9th best offensive line, the 10th best offensive line of football, I'm honestly not going to be shocked. Top 5? I don't think so. To be honest, I don't think this group is going to be top 5 with the O-lines that are currently out there, right? Assuming that maybe like Tate Ratledge steps in and does a good job for Detroit. I don't really see their offensive line tailing off, albeit you're looking at the O-line as a whole. It's an older offensive line. But again, the Bills and the Broncos O-lines are... But again, Tampa, Buffalo, and Denver's offensive lines are just freaking solid. Like the Bo Nix, Josh Allen, Baker Mayfield. Like there's a reason why all 3 offenses just roll on Sundays, right? All 3 quarterbacks put up really, really good numbers. Super, super efficient. Baker, Bo Nix, Josh Allen. I mean, these guys are making plays every single week, and I think that's like a huge correlation is the offensive line success, specifically in pass protection. So anyway, let me know your thoughts down below in the comments section. Do you think the Jets could be a top 10 offensive line, or do you think, okay, we're still like 2-3 years away? Maybe we have to make a swap somewhere, at some point down the road. But anyway, let me know your thoughts. Thanks so much for watching. I appreciate you guys. And as always, go Jets.